My name is Mark Adamcin, and I am a principal architect with Bounteous. Uh, Today, I'm going to introduce you to oakpal, a project for um, package validation. This is an introduction for the workshop that will begin in a little over an hour. So a little bit about myself. I've been working in the AEM space since 2008, and I've been a little involved in AEM DevOps related activities. So I've created the Jenkins CRX content package deployer plugin previous to oakpal. A little bit about oakpal. It's an open source project that I created. It's licensed with Apache 2.0. It has been integrated in Cognified's Gradle AEM plugin, and it is used for validation in ACS AEM Commons. It's also used at Adobe. It won the 2019 AEM Rockstar Award at Adobe Summit North America, and it's used for package validation in Cloud Manager pipelines. Some reports that it has identified about 11,000 sonar violations a month. And you can currently view the 8 documented sonar checks on Adobe's documentation for their custom code quality checks. So what does it do? oakpal scans code packages and reports violations defined by user-provided checklists. A checklist defines 2 things: the initial state of a JCR repository and acceptance criteria as configured checks. The approach is to use a concrete JCR package manager to actually install the packages in your build into a transient but concrete oak repository. During the installation, it propagates the progress tracker events to these custom progress checks, and the checks have access to the fully functional Jackrabbit JCR session. The checks are responsible for reporting violations as minor, major, or severe levels of severity. The goals of the project are to provide a convenient declarative syntax for defining that initial repository state, to make it easy to publish your own checklists and validation plans as Maven artifacts for sharing with the wider community, and to also make it flexible for however you want to write those checks. So you can write the checks in Java or in a JSR 223 scripting language. So I'll switch over just so you see a little bit of visual of what happens. I've got a POM here for a content package. I'll walk you through. It's very short. It's a UI.content package. And as you can see, it's using the standard FileVault Maven plugin for actually creating the package. And then I've added my oakpal-maven plugin configuration after that. So a little walkthrough of what's going on in the configuration. First, I'm pulling the node types for initializing the state of the repository from the net-centric recent contribution of the AEM node types for 6.5.5. And then I am executing a repo init file for all my executions that establishes the CRX namespace and registers the CRX replicate privilege, which is another dependency. And then finally, I'm deferring the build failures until the verify stage so that you can run multiple scans and check multiple things and fail after the integration tests. So to make the node types available, you can specify the dependencies on the plugin itself, and then we'll move into the executions. So to begin with, the package installation should work pretty much straight through, just to show you what it looks like without the validation. And then I'm going to uncomment this execution. So before I move further, I'll explain what's happening here. The first scan is going to create a couple paths before installing the package. And what I want to do is expect a particular path to exist after installing the package, so that I can ensure that the package does not delete that path. So think of this as like you are doing regular development and you have content in your production environment, and you want to ensure that that content is not accidentally deleted by the installation of a package artifact. So I've defined essentially one path, but I've created a root path, conf classic app settings, and then that says a sling folder, and then I'm creating a page, or multiple pages, I guess, underneath that path. And that's about it for the repo init. And then the check configuration here specifies that I want to expect that this path exists, and that's the same path that I created above in the repo init step. So run Maven clean install again, and should see a bit of a change. So for some reason, the package did not retain this page path that I created. So I'm going to flip back, and I happen to know that the issue there is in the filter. So I'm missing mode merge. Run it again. All right, so I've resolved the validation, the violation. All right, so that's basically the gist. I have other executions here as well to demonstrate things like instead of just expecting paths, you can also expect access control entries. So, for example, see if this. All right, that succeeds. And then to demonstrate what can happen when it doesn't succeed, for example, like if you are doing the mode merge on your filter, then the ACEs won't be overwritten. So by creating the path first, I get to see what happens when you install with this filter mode. So you can also use oakpal to simulate different situations for local development to ensure that you get your configuration correct. So now we're showing a violation of, in this case, we don't have a node type constraint satisfied. All right. So, earlier today, Conrad showed us his work in FileVault validation, and an important question is when to use which, oakpal versus Vault validation. They certainly do similar things, but in a very different way. So Vault validation performs incremental static validation of a package and its content. Validation is performed without the overhead of a running repository. It'll lead to faster and contextually relevant validation feedback in IDEs. And the drawback of this is that installation effects can only be inferred by validation, it cannot be directly observed. Oakpal, on the other hand, performs installation of your packages into a fresh JCR repository and observes the changes. Oakpal will be better for validating the actual changes of your package installation, like detecting unintended deletions of nodes. Oakpal won't provide incremental feedback as quickly as Vault validation, and it won't be able to provide direct source code references for violations. Recommendation is to use FileVault package validate goals to check the correctness and enforce the conventions of your package artifact source code, but use oakpal-maven-plugin to enforce evolving content policies established by Sling, AEM, or your own organization. All right, so much of what's been added to Oakpal recently has been to support the new additions for AEM as a cloud service. AEM as a cloud service has added new content package restrictions and conventions. So instead of sub packages, we're using embedded packages. There is first-class support for repo init to be executed prior to deployment. And now we have to be able to treat container, mutable, and immutable content types with different sets of rules. So Oakpal now supports defining initial repository state, as you've seen, using repo init scripts. It also now allows you to scan embedded packages as opposed to sub packages using a simulation of Sling JCR installer. And using that same facility, we can apply embedded repo init scripts as well, so that you can detect changes in the repository that occur because of those repo init scripts. All right, so are there any questions? Nothing appears to have been added. All right, so I'll sit here staring into the void for the next minute and 41 seconds if you come up with anything. But other than that, thank you for your time, and I'll see some of you at the workshop in about an hour. Thank you very much.